looking back outside. This is 101. So 101 is still blocked off. I don't recall if it's northbound or south. This is southbound. This is southbound that is still blocked. We can see the northbound side getting through, but southbound still blocked, and we have a number of those police vehicles there, and they haven't moved. It's been blocked for, I'd say, 3 hours. 3 hours, yeah.
And the real danger here is that the northbound side to the left is open.
Right.
The people who are throwing these things off this overpass onto the vehicles below, thankfully, have not turned their ire to the cars that are moving by. That could change in an instant. It is abhorrent to see what they are doing.
This is
looking
sad,
at what
yeah.
the state of the 101 freeway is here, littered with scooters, a bicycle, debris, rocks, cement that have been hurled off this overpass onto these vehicles below. But, you know, as bad as this looks, it could get even worse with those cars driving by on the northbound side. So how long this is going to be allowed to continue? There are vehicles under the protection of the overpass that are not being hit. Where are those officers right now? Where are the CHP officers that drove these vehicles onto the freeway who have now left them here? I don't think they can access them. They would need some kind of police escort to clear these people from the surrounding overpasses, because they would find themselves under assault, as their vehicles have been for hours now.
It's terrifying just thinking that looking at the damage on their cars, knowing that there could have been a police officer inside that unit when they threw that lime scooter, but luckily, and we just saw something else get thrown at that vehicle as well. Luckily, we think that those officers are not there. Right. So yeah, that's another question. Where are those officers? And when they come back to their cars, they really just have to be careful. They have to have some sort of escort. But Dory, that's a really good point. I wasn't even thinking about the northbound side, and those drivers, they're fine right now. They're fine. But thinking if this escalates even more, I mean, their safety is at risk as well.
So CNN is reporting tonight that California Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis says there will likely be a lawsuit filed tomorrow challenging President Trump's decision to federalize those National Guard troops in Los Angeles. So the governor of California is moving for the president to rescind that order, and now the lieutenant governor says there will be a lawsuit filed tomorrow trying to undo that move by President Trump to federalize the California National Guard members. Again, from a PR perspective, who's coming out looking better here? The president says he wants law and order and is doing whatever he can to gain that, and says there are California National Guardsmen and women who are here who can do this. I'm federalizing them. I want peace. You have the governor and the lieutenant governor now fighting that order, obviously on grounds of legal challenges.
Right.
Both sides want peace, but in the eyes of the nation and the world, who comes out on top in that dispute?
Right. It's become a clash. Unfortunately, this has just become a clash of powers between not only the government and the federal level, but also protesters as well. So they're mixed in the middle of all of this.
Right. Okay. So as we sit on this shot, I wonder if our camera can pan back over to what's playing out just a short ways away in front of City Hall. That is where a group of protesters have stuck around. They are using chairs and benches and tables taken from Gloria Molina Grand Park, which for some reason were not secured to the ground, and they are now in the middle of the road outside City Hall, used as a barricade to protect themselves from an onslaught of less than lethal flashbangs and pepper balls that have been volleyed from the folks on the LAPD trying to break this up. We have not seen much movement here in the last hour in this situation, and it appears there's a line of mounted officers that remains there at that intersection just outside the corner of City Hall there, and down the street you can see those barricades that are being used. And as soon as we clear the shot of these trees, you will see those pink benches stood up on their sides. We have flags of various South and Central American countries being waved here, and it seems we have arrived at an impasse.
And yeah, looking at this, it makes you think that I think we had a very similar setup just about 30 minutes ago. So it makes you think that half an hour passed by, and we are not seeing any progress really being made. Like, you're thinking, What are the police waiting for? Are they thinking that this is just going to play out? Are protesters going to get tired? But we have seen a very similar scene to this for not just that last half hour, but hours now. And yeah, we just have those, the chairs and the benches barricaded there.
So Spring Street has been taken over. The steps of City Hall have now been lined with protesters. A short time ago, LA Mayor Karen Bass held a press conference just inside this building where these protesters were happening. Tim Caputo said you could hear the explosions happening outside. Let's listen into a little bit of what LA Mayor Karen Bass had to say a short time ago.
What we're seeing in LA is chaos caused by the administration. People should exercise their right to protest. That's their First Amendment right. But people should also exercise that right peacefully. We do not want to play into the administration's hands. We're working with officials, we're organizing resources, but what we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation, but we need to be real about this. This is about another agenda. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy. I want the people of Los Angeles to know that we stand with all Angelenos, no matter where you were born. The First Amendment right gives you the ability, again, to protest peacefully. But it does not give you the right to be violent, to create chaos, or to vandalize property. And that will not be tolerated. So I call on all Angelenos to continue expressing your right, your anger, your outrage, but to do it peacefully. And I just have to say that all of you were there Friday. Everybody knows what happened Friday. A workplace, several workplaces were targeted and raids took place. Now, in the beginning, the administration said they were just looking for dangerous felons, violent people. It's hard to say that that's what they found at a workplace or in a Home Depot parking lot. When this happens, it terrifies people. It sends a sense of fear and chaos in our city. And you well remember a few years ago in the last administration that kids were afraid to go to school. Parents were afraid to go to work. This impacts all of our city. You can't terrify the workforce, and then expect for people to get the jobs done. So if you think about a father that went into a factory and now his family doesn't know where he is, the detainees have not been allowed to speak to legal counsel. That is a marked departure from what has happened in the past. When you think of a mother that might be working in a household, taking care of children on another side of town, that impacts that family as well as her family. And so this is something that I think should not be happening in our city. And I join with the governor in appealing to the administration to rescind the order to federal.
With Los Angeles and immigration and immigrants in our city. As we were listening to the mayor, exactly what we were talking about played out. Some officers emerged from beneath that overpass, and they were met immediately by projectiles, rocks and bottles and other things being thrown off that overpass. And as we said, if they want to have any movement to get these vehicles out of there, that overpass is going to have to be cleared by law enforcement, because these folks, something else large just got thrown. It looks like a pillow, but I do not think that was a pillow. Given the force of what is now sitting in the windshield of that vehicle. What is that?
It looks like some kind of maybe a bag with like maybe a bag of rocks or some kind of heavy thing in the bag. But yeah, we see
that could be. We saw folks gathering things on the ground for a long time. It could be they were filling up a bag, and perhaps here comes another scooter. I'm surprised this has been allowed to continue for as long as it has. You see the size of those rocks. Here goes another scooter.
They missed.
I mean, at this point, what does it matter? These things, the damage is so severe on these vehicles that are just beneath the roadway. But I'm curious to see whether someone with a hammer is getting these rocks, because you see the size of the chunks of cement. And here we go. It looks like movement here. Okay, they have moved in now and broken up this barricade with benches and chairs, and the LAPD is moving now through with those mounted officers. And the demonstrators who were gathered here for more than an hour are now being pushed back Spring Street. This is south down Spring towards LAPD headquarters, ironically enough. And you can see the steps of City Hall to the left. The green of Molina Park is off to the right, and the smoke lingers in the air here as officers are working to clear this area.
But just the fact they took those benches and those chairs from Gloria Molina Park, that's just insane. It's mind-blowing. And here we have the remnants of it, I believe. Now, it looks like law enforcement going in, putting those benches down. They'll be clearing that out of the road hopefully soon. But
let's go see what's happening a little further up the road and with those demonstrators, because those mounted officers are continuing to move in. Again, another stretch of roadway that's just being reclaimed by the LAPD.
Yeah.
Where will these demonstrators go next?
Exactly.
Has this run out of steam? It's been a long day. It's been a long weekend in Los Angeles. At what point does this end? Does this calm down and these folks go home? Is this going to continue into the night, as we've seen the last 2 nights and seen unrest, confrontation with law enforcement? And once again, we are at a showdown. Those LAPD officers are standing in the middle of Spring Street. This is the middle. This is the main crosswalk from the park over to City Hall. You see that brick walkway there in the middle, normally full of buses making their way through, and a lot of people. But tonight, the only people that are making their way through are the police and these demonstrators in the middle of the road.
And right now, I'm curious to know if these demonstrators are going to go, I mean, is there even anything left at the park? Can they go to the park and grab more benches and chairs, or are they just going to stand there now? And now that they are pretty much defenseless, is this where it's going to start fizzling down and we see some more progress being made? It looks like we have a police car pulling up to something.
A little more movement, yeah.
Yeah.
As we watch what's playing here on Spring Street, I wonder if we can go a little bit to the left and see what's playing out at the Federal Complex. This is pretty close. So remember, this is the site of that large demonstration around 2 o'clock today. We'll show you how far it is from the rest of the activity. So this is the overpass. This is on Los Angeles Street, which looks like these vehicles are now being moved. The overpass has been cleared. This had to happen. At some point, this was going on for way too long. Those vehicles were sustaining way too much damage, and we'll wait and see what kind of damage was done to the overpass itself. But
looks like
fireworks,
shot.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
more explosives going off here, and we see a canister being kicked on the roadway here.
I also
Wow.
want to
Did you
know. Oh, what's going on?
So beneath, there is some movement here. Watch what these officers are doing on the 101 freeway. They're looking out for more people. Yeah, the volleying of projectiles continues. It looks like perhaps they were able to clear the overpass from below.
That's not a good spot for them to stand because these protesters are throwing fireworks directly at those officers.
Okay. Traffic continues to go by on the northbound side, and here you see somebody throw something, a firework down below, and then retreat back to the other side. I don't know what the fortifications are beneath this underpass, but these CHP vehicles have been here for hours. I assume that those officers that we're seeing now, that they have been beneath there this entire time.
Yeah.
We saw those who were arrested from the 101 and the on-ramp, and they were taken away. They weren't taken into downtown. They were taken down back onto the 101 freeway where those CHP vehicles were parked, and you assume driven off to detention from there. There remain some vehicles and the officers that occupy them beneath this overpass.
So they were hiding under that overpass. I'm more curious to know exactly how are they able to clear out the people that were on that overpass? Because we looked at it just about 10 minutes ago and it was packed.
Right.
We had so many protesters there, but so quickly they got rid of them, and I think that's when the police felt
Amen,
they came
Jean.
out from under the overpass. But unfortunately, they're getting fireworks thrown at them. But it looks like it has stopped. We have some more movement here.
Yeah, it looks like the airbags deployed in this from everything being thrown on top of it. So trying to get in here and access this, maybe just putting it into neutral. So
I'm surprised.
I think his legs.
Moving.
I don't think that officer is sitting there. I think they're kind of pushing on the gas pedal perhaps because that airbag is fully deployed. I think he's climbing under it. And you see him lifting it back up to emerge back from the vehicle. So maybe putting it in neutral so they can push these vehicles out of the way, struggling to get the airbag out of the way, and another canister thrown, a smoke canister thrown from up above down onto the surface. So we'll see if this officer is able to move this vehicle again under attack. An onslaught of projectiles being thrown down there. That is assault on a law enforcement officer right there, throwing directly a rock at that officer who was not in a vehicle, exposed at the time, and there I believe that is the person that was doing it.
It's all caught on camera. But where are the officers here that moved in on the protesters?
I'm not
Where
sure
are
they did. I'm not sure they did. I think the officers on the surface of the 101 might have fired tear gas up above, because I don't
That
see.
makes sense why they dispersed so
exactly.
quickly.
I don't see any officers up on that level. Everything seems to be down, and here we just saw something thrown, and I don't think it made it to the southbound side. It might have fallen into oncoming traffic on the northbound side.
That's another concern. Yeah, the southbound drivers.
There you go. You can see something in the middle of the road that was just thrown. A couple things, cans perhaps, water, rocks, and here we go. So you see officers running because it's too dangerous to move slowly when they emerge from beneath this overpass. Just unbelievable scene of CHP officers sprinting for their own safety as other officers step out to cover them as projectiles continue to be thrown. And we'll see from this side whether anyone manages or dares to throw anything. But this officer now moving pretty quickly, knowing that they're likely to face, there you go, something thrown and hitting that vehicle. So how long this has been allowed to go on? It's been hours. You can see the amount and the size of the chunks of concrete that were thrown onto the roadway here. If that hit a person, it could easily kill
Don't
them.
say that.
Another firework thrown down there. So these 3 vehicles still abandoned by the CHP. 4
That's
of
what
them.
it's
We'll
called.
see if
It says
anyone is able to
protest in
get back in there.
downtown
The one
LA.
Close, furthest to the left has the airbags deployed. I don't know if that's drivable, if they can even move that tonight. But we see LAPD officers not too far away from here. They cleared those folks out from the middle of Spring Street. While all this was playing out, officers from the
Protest.
CHP under siege from these demonstrators. And you talk about
Yeah.
peaceful demonstrations. What we are seeing, that is not peaceful.
No.
The folks that are gathered on that overpass are violent. They are not peaceful protesters. And we are seeing their assault on law enforcement
Yeah,
continue.
we just saw it right in front of our eyes, exactly the assault on the police officers and those officers running for their lives. Right now, it looks like one demonstrator facing off against law enforcement, but they did clear those 2 scenes out fairly quickly, that barricaded area and also the overpass. And I'm curious how many other scenes we have, how many gatherings of groups we have. Right now it looks like this is just one demonstrator, and officers seem to be firing something at this demonstrator. This demonstrator just seems to be walking.
Yeah, just challenging them to
Yeah.
do something now. So their protection has been taken down. You can see one bench there, someone, I believe, lying down. Yep, maybe with a skateboard as protection. So these folks just kind of taunting those officers. It brings up the question that Tim Caputo was asking earlier, and quoting someone else, would these folks still be here if the LAPD had backed off at this point? But, you know, the violence kind of negates that question. As long as people are acting like this, the LAPD needs to stay here. And here we have officers on the back of this armored
That almost
pickup
looks
truck.
like a SWAT team, possibly.
That's sheriff.
Oh, it's LA sheriff, okay.
Yeah, that's sheriff or CHP. I believe that's just sheriff. Yep,
Oh,
it says
yeah,
sheriff on
yeah.
the door. So those are LASD deputies in full, in tactical gear. I don't know if it's full tactical gear, but they have tactical equipment on. And looks like reinforcements are now moving in as LASD deputies are moving onto the scene here. Perhaps there was a call when those CHP officers came under attack,
Yeah.
and that's why these guys are moving in. We'll see.
Maybe that's what it took. Like it definitely went a step ahead of what I'm sure a lot of them were expecting. Because yeah, we just saw those officers get attacked, running for their lives, and I think really you're right. That did spark them wanting to move in.
And so a crowd is once again gathering on the overpass. I believe this is still Los Angeles Street. And these demonstrators continue to volley concrete and bottles. There's a large chunk that just hit that vehicle once again. So where is this coming from? Where is all this concrete being removed from to be able to be thrown onto the roadway, and what kind of damage is that doing to the overpass infrastructure here in downtown Los Angeles? There is a lot of concrete on that roadway. Where did it come from? It had to come from somewhere, and you know chunks like that are not just sitting on the side of the road. So here they are scattering again. Perhaps a tear gas canister was deployed back up onto here, or maybe it's the sheriff's department moving in. There's still a couple blocks, they would have to be a couple blocks away from City Hall where we saw them gathering.
Yeah, it has to be either, oh, there's some fireworks that I believe they threw, but possibly tear gas. That was a pretty large crowd. Again, we saw it clear out, but then that large crowd gathered again. It looks like it's clearing out, but I feel like it's just a matter of time before they come back. And I just don't understand, why are they throwing the concrete? The officers have left. There's 3 cars left. They're heavily damaged. It makes you just wonder why. Why are they continuing to throw concrete?
It is the destruction. It's like the destruction of young men.
Yeah.
You know, we see this after sporting events, the burning of couches, the ripping down of goalposts. You know, this is the kind of thing that people of a certain age just like to do. And I am generalizing somewhat. There could be some women, some females involved in this, and older people, but generally we see in a gathering like this, you start to get a mob mentality where some people are doing it, and you just kind of lose your inhibitions as here goes another scooter down onto the roadway below. So the damage that is being caused to the infrastructure, to the vehicles of the CHP, to that overpass, to the scooters and the bikes that are provided for the public to use are now no longer available, and this will cost money to replace. Money that has been spent by our tax dollars to procure is now unavailable.
It makes you wonder, like, how much is the city going to have to spend now? This is thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage that was so unnecessary. And it looks like we have a little more, no, this is not movement, that's just the northbound side that's moving, which honestly, I'm so glad that the northbound side is still safe as of right now. Looks like at least the demonstrators have left it alone, but we are zooming back in into that police vehicle. Again, it has some sort of bag, and it looks like there is a flame on that police vehicle. I can't tell.
Yep, that is now on fire. We'll see if it catches or if it burns out, if it fizzles out. We've already seen 5 vehicles go up in flames, those unmanned Waymos that were lit on fire. So is this an incendiary, or is this to extinguish? It was an extinguisher. Okay, good. All right, so that fire, nope, that is still burning.
Wow.
You can see it right on the windshield. What was the windshield is now kind of caved into this vehicle, and that fire is still burning. I don't know if there's anything to catch on that. I guess it depends on how much ingress it has into the vehicle itself, but if a fire lands just on a vehicle that's off on the windshield and the hood, nothing should theoretically catch fire.
Yeah, and just seeing this damage, it just gives you a glimpse of how upset and just frustrated these protesters are, and it just makes you want to tell them, like, hey, LAPD is not ICE. You know, why are you doing this? LAPD is supposed to be there to protect you. They don't like that they're in this situation either. Why continue this chaos? But it just goes to show that mentality. They're upset.
Right, and just a couple blocks away, we saw another crowd gathered outside City Hall as these folks are regathering on this overpass and continuing to volley chunks of concrete, now incendiaries, scooters and bikes off of this overpass onto those CHP vehicles below. We believe there are still officers and other vehicles beneath this overpass, and we'll see how this plays out. We are expecting to hear from Loyola Law Professor Jessica Levinson. I don't know if she has joined us yet, but we are awaiting her to join us because there is quite a bit to talk about, constitutionally speaking, as you now have the governor of California at odds legally with the President of the United States. The President Trump federalized 2,000 members of the California National Guard, as we have said multiple times today, but we will explain it once again. This is not an uncommon thing for a president to federalize National Guards members. It has happened many times in our country's history. It hasn't happened many times even recently here in Los Angeles. Federal Guards troops were deployed to help out in the aftermath of the fires.
Right.
They were deployed in 2020 with the civil unrest, with everything that happened during.
It's 538 people in. I need 538 likes and 538 people hitting the poll.
And that did not
Put your
happen.
vote
You
in.
have the
Whose fault
president
is it?
usurping the authority of the governor to take over
Please.
California National Guards members and deploy them onto the streets of that city. The governor of California is now disputing that, asking, demanding, requesting that the president rescind that order and return control to the governor and the state of California. We heard from CNN reporting that the lieutenant governor, Eleni Kounalakis,
Hi,
says
Sheila.
that a lawsuit will be filed tomorrow to try and overturn that decision of President Trump to federalize those troops. This has not happened in our country's history, at least in recent memory, that I can think of since the civil rights era. We're talking since the 60s, when there was pushback against civil rights advancements. John F. Kennedy federalized the troops to help black students attend public school in states like Alabama and others, when George Wallace and the like were refusing to follow federal law and depriving U.S. citizens of their constitutional rights to attend school. That was the last time I believe that this has happened against the wishes of a governor, seeing their own National Guards members taken over. That is a little bit different than this. That was to enforce federal law that the governor was refusing to do.
Right.
In this situation, what is the justification to do this without the governor's request? So that has opened up
It's different, like a different part of history
yes,
that
a lot
we're
of
writing.
questions that we would love to pose to.
A lot of people thought that it was a good idea to put him back in office.
Also awaiting at the top of the hour a law enforcement briefing with the LAPD. We expect to hear from Chief Jim McDonald. We know LA County Sheriff Robert Luna is also involved in these discussions, and we saw some of his deputies as we see these demonstrators lighting a piece of cardboard on fire. They are intent on burning more cars tonight. We'll see if it happens here that one of them is a CHP cruiser that has been under attack for hours now. Folks throwing chunks of concrete, scooters, bikes, and more onto these vehicles below. It was a perfect shot landing on the hood of that vehicle. Again, here comes some fire retardant, a fire extinguisher to put that out. I don't know if it had much chance of lighting anything on fire, but
That's
again,
definitely coming from under the overpass then. So there are some police officers still there then. That shows they're still there.
correct. And so we do also expect and hope to hear from the governor, who is in Los Angeles meeting with federal, local officials here, LAPD, LASD, and we believe that he will be speaking at this press briefing at the top of the hour. As we await that, as we await Professor Levinson, we continue to watch this chaos play out on the streets of Los Angeles. That includes the surface streets, which are the domain of Los Angeles, and the 101 freeway, which is the domain of the California Highway Patrol, which you can tell by these 3 CHP vehicles, which are now battered and dented after hours of projectiles being thrown at them.
And you can see an even larger crowd gathering now on, I believe that's still just the side of the overpass. The overpass still has a lot, but you can see more on the side, and they don't seem like they're going anywhere. It's getting late. We're getting close to sunset. Sunset's going to happen in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So unfortunately, it looks like this protest has made it into the evening hours when it starts getting dark. And then that raises more questions. What's going to happen when things get dark? Is that maybe where law enforcement draws the line and they say, okay, that's it. We need to, stop this right now and then go a different route? Or are they going to continue what they're doing and like what we've been seeing, let things fizzle out, play out, and then move in with the horses, move in with those to those barricaded areas? It's interesting to see what their move is, especially as it's getting dark.
Right, the LAPD Central Division throwing out a traffic advisory saying due to demonstrators throwing objects onto the southbound lanes of the 101 freeway, and damaging multiple police vehicles. The 101 southbound freeway will remain closed until further notice. This will take a lot of time, not only to get the demonstrators out of this area, but to clean up the mess they've now left behind.
Right.
You have 3 California Highway Patrol vehicles that will likely need to be towed. They could get out under their own power. We'll see how damaged they are. Then you have, I mean, hundreds of pounds of concrete that have now accumulated after being thrown from this overpass onto the roadway. That's not something you can just easily.
Right. How do you clean that up?
Right. Are you going to kick it off to the side of the road? Do you need a street sweeper? Do you need crews coming through and gathering them in trash cans or a dump truck to do that? And so questions remain about how that is going to be handled. We do have, as we await the press conference at the top of the hour, we do have Professor Jessica Levinson joining us tonight. And boy, Professor, we have some questions to talk about with you tonight. I don't know if we have 8 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's try and fit as much in as we possibly can. First, what's on your mind as you watch what's playing out in Los Angeles tonight and the battle now between California Governor Gavin Newsom and the President of the United States?
So I think what's on my mind is what's on everybody's mind, which is what happens next? What happens overnight? What happens tomorrow? Will we see a significant escalation? If there is a significant escalation, or frankly, maybe any escalation, we could see the president say, I need to do more. We could see the president potentially, again, pull the cord and say, I need to invoke the Insurrection Act. As I'm sure you've been talking about, the Insurrection Act would give the president more authority to not just federalize the National Guard, but to say that the National Guard can actually act as domestic law enforcement, that the military on U.S. soil can search, can seize, can arrest. That's not something that we're accustomed to. So I'm looking to see, obviously, what's happening right now, but also how the situation evolves and how the president reacts.
And we have seen the president allude to the fact that and we're watching, sorry, Professor, there's a split screen here on the right side of your screen. We're seeing continued demonstrations, and a firebomb was just thrown down off of the 101 freeway overpass onto one of those CHP vehicles below, which is now burning. We'll see if they're able to put that out with fire retardant from below. There's a fire extinguisher I believe they're deploying, but that looks like it's going to go. It looked like it was some kind of ball of fuel, whether it was alcohol or gas, lobbed off of this overpass, and that CHP vehicle is now on fire. So we're having this conversation with these scenes playing out, Professor. We have heard the president twice within the last hour refer to the people, the demonstrators, and some of them violent and clearly breaking the law here, as insurrectionists. We have heard Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth threaten that the U.S. Marines will be deployed from Camp Pendleton onto the streets of Los Angeles if the violence continues. Is that allowed? Can the President of the United States legally, in a situation like this, deploy under the Insurrection Act, U.S. military to fight U.S. citizens on U.S. soil?
Okay, so in a situation like this is going to be the key. This is going to be where the fighting is. So let's talk really briefly about the federal statutes at issue here. We all know that the president can only act when there's something that gives him the power to act, or there's inherent constitutional power. In this case, what the president is pointing to is Title VII. This is not the Insurrection Act, Title 10. Title 10 allows the president to federalize the National Guard and to allow them to act in a support role for federal law enforcement. They can help protect federal agents. They can help protect federal property, but they cannot act like law enforcement officials and, again, perform searches and seizures. They cannot act like ICE agents. But if things continue, you asked me about the Insurrection Act. Obviously, the president has been using certain language today. What happens next? The Insurrection Act is an exception to the Posse Comitatus Act. The Posse Comitatus Act says you can't use the military as direct domestic law enforcement. You can't have that happen, again, unless there are certain exigent or emergency circumstances. The Insurrection Act would present those emergency circumstances. So for me, the real legal question is, are we in a situation where the president can point to that broad grant of authority under the Insurrection Act and say, yes, we can move forward.
Yeah.
We cannot just have the National Guard, but have them perform those domestic law enforcement agency actions.
This is a president who has pushed the boundaries of constitutional law and law itself. What would happen if he decides these are insurrectionists, invokes the Insurrection Act, deploys U.S. military, and what is the who can stop him? He's the president of the United States. If he does that, let's say Marines show up in Los Angeles, who's going to stop them?
So I think at that point you would have California having standing to sue. I'm not saying it's going to be a successful suit. I'm saying you would have standing to sue. The argument would be that the president is infringing on state sovereignty because he doesn't have the power under the Insurrection Act. That when you pull the cord on the Insurrection Act, that you should have cooperation from a governor. Now there have been, let's discuss, and you may have already discussed, moments in our nation's history where the president has said, I'm sending in troops. That was really about implementing desegregation decisions during the civil rights era. We haven't seen the Insurrection Act, in my view, used in modern times against the will of a governor, which is a long answer to your question of what would happen. California would go to court and California would say the president doesn't have the power. And then we would be in another court battle. We would have a federal judge, likely a number of federal judges making that decision.
It is incredible that we are asking these questions in the United States, that this is even in the realm of possibility of something that could happen. But Professor Jessica Levinson, I would love to sit and talk with you more. Unfortunately, we're facing a time crunch here at the top of the hour. We're awaiting LAPD's press conference. So thank you so much. I would love to talk to you, and I hope we can talk to you about this, and hopefully not about some of the outcomes that we're talking about are possibilities here. Jessica, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as we approach the top of the hour, we are going to kind of wrap up this portion of our coverage as we get ready for the LAPD press conference. We'll wait to see if California Governor Gavin Newsom will be taking part. He did post a picture of himself with the Chief of Police of the LAPD and the LA County Sheriff Robert Luna, that he is in Los Angeles. He is working with those jurisdictions to see what is going to play out and how to best address this situation. But we're going to switch over some crews here as we get ready. So we will continue to cover. You'll still see this Air 7 picture of what is happening in downtown Los Angeles. Things calming down except for that one pocket over the 101 freeway where we see demonstrators continue to hurl objects down at the CHP vehicles below. But stay with us. We are not going anywhere. We will bring you that LAPD press conference here in just about 1 minute as we continue our coverage here on Eyewitness News, streaming and online for Eyewitness News.
This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
Now at 8, violent clashes between more than 1,000 protesters and law enforcement officers in downtown Los Angeles. This on the third day of protests over federal immigration enforcement operations. Good evening, I'm Mark Brown. Tonight, we have seen protesters shutting down the 101 freeway, setting fire to Waymo cars, throwing rocks, concrete, even electric scooters against law enforcement vehicles on the 101 freeway. We have seen several people pulled out of the crowd and arrested by police. The remnants of less than lethal tear gas and rubber bullets littering the streets of downtown. And beyond what we're seeing on the group, another battle playing out over the Trump administration's decision to deploy National Guard troops to quell these protests that the president is calling an insurrection. We want to begin right now. There's a news conference that is scheduled with the chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, Jim McDonald, that is scheduled to begin at 8. This is a key element of this because one of the things that the president has been indicating is that local leaders, local officials, we don't know if he includes the chief in that, he has spoken about elected officials and especially the mayor and the governor, saying that they are not responding to the protests in order to quell them, and that is why he is calling in the National Guard. The chief of police of Los Angeles, Jim McDonald, is going to speak to the news media and to the citizens of Los Angeles. We expect that to happen at any moment. In the meantime, this has been a momentous day here in Southern California, where these protests that began downtown at City Hall and at the Federal Building Complex, including the Hall of Administration and the Justice Department there and the courthouse. Those two crowds merged later this afternoon and became a huge throng of more than 1,000 people and began marching around different areas of downtown Los Angeles, City Hall, and elsewhere. There has been violence directed at police and at members of ICE. What you're looking at now are live pictures from Air 7 as mounted LA police units are now moving some of those demonstrators out. It has been a pretty amazing day in Southern California, another crazy day of things happening. Let's go to Tim Caputo, who has been out in the middle of it for much of the afternoon. Tim, what do you see?
Well, Mark, you really nailed it on the head there. It has been a crazy day, and as the sun starts to go down, the concern, obviously, is things escalate from here. It's kind of interesting as you see the different layers. We kind of took a step back to get a broader vantage point, partially because the area we were on Los Angeles Street earlier was getting a little bit hairy. You can see down the 101 beneath us with all the overpasses and people on essentially every single overpass as police have moved in. Tommy, come to my right here to show these officers who have lined up on the street. We actually saw a number of sheriff's deputies come in on those big trucks with their tactical gear here to assist the LAPD as they try to move this crowd or get some sort of control out here this afternoon. Where we're standing is up on Hill Street. It gives you a vantage point of everything that's going on down below. If you look to my left here on the hill, this has grown throughout the day, and this is something that we've seen not just here a little bit farther away, but even down at Union Station as well. People are showing up. People are still coming out. People heard what's going on. People want to be part of what's going on. And so the crowd is not necessarily getting smaller. It may be dissipating in certain areas, but in a lot of ways it's getting bigger. The folks up here taking some photo, live streaming, being part of it from a distance. As you get a little bit closer, you can start to see and hear where the fireworks are going off. The police department, obviously, both LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, and CHP, in a bit of a difficult spot because of the landscape here. You have the overpasses, you have the freeway underneath, and then you have the roads that go around the buildings, both Federal Building and City Hall, over on the south side of the 101. There is a lot of area to cover, and it seems as though, from what we've seen both down below and up here, as they start to move a crowd and it seems to dissipate, people just work their way around. They come up the street, they go around the street. So getting control here is almost impossible. So what they're trying to do is get things quieter, but figure out how to finally get this crowd to go home. I can tell you, Mark, from being out here on Friday night, from being in Compton last night, that is a tall order.
Indeed, there are a lot of demonstrators that they still have to deal with. Let's get more from Gabe Santos. He's in Air 7. This is over the Freeway bridge under which several CHP vehicles were abandoned after people started throwing scooters and concrete at those vehicles, damaging them, placing the lives of the officers inside them in danger. Let's get more from Gabe about how that situation is now.
Yeah, Mark, this is the situation above the 101 freeway. You have a couple of bridges here. That's the Alameda Street Bridge, and then over to the right is the Los Angeles Street Bridge. And on that bridge, you had a number of protesters throwing things down on the CHP vehicles below. Those CHP vehicles were parked there as you see a firework or parts of a firework going through the shot. Those CHP vehicles were parked there a number of hours ago, about 2 or 3 hours ago, when protesters came onto the freeway and were blocking the southbound lanes of the 101 freeway. CHP moved in, they moved those protesters out, and they controlled that situation, but they left a number of those vehicles there onto the freeway. Eventually, some of those protesters on the overpass on the Los Angeles Street Bridge started chipping pieces of concrete away from the sidewalk and finding other things to throw down, like bird scooters and other electric bicycles, and they started throwing them down onto the CHP vehicles below. Earlier in our live streaming coverage, you saw that CHP vehicle right there was actually set on fire. It looks as if it may not be a total loss in terms of being completely inoperable, but it may no longer be drivable. You see those CHP units there under the overpass there, trying to figure out how to move that vehicle out of the way. The other vehicles, they appear to have been able to have moved those out of the way, and all of those protesters that were on the Los Angeles Street Bridge have now been cleared. LAPD has refocused their efforts, and you now have LA County Sheriff's Department here as well. We've seen Rescue 5, that's that very large sea stallion.
Gabe, I need to stop you right now. LA Police Chief Jim McDonald is about to speak. Let's hear him.
Good? All good? All right, thank you. Thank you, first of all. I know it's a very, very busy time. Thank you all for coming here tonight and allowing us the opportunity to be able to brief the public a little bit about what's going on and what we've been doing, and ask, truly an ask for peace throughout our city. I'm joined here by Gerald Woodyard, Deputy Chief from Operations West Bureau, Herman Hurtado, Commander from Professional Standards Bureau, and from Operations Central Bureau, Raul Jovel, who's also the incident commander for Central Bureau and for this incident. So I want to just take an opportunity to speak directly to the people of Los Angeles, clarify LAPD's roles in the events that have been playing out over these past couple of days. This includes our response to protests, our public safety responsibilities, and recent claims that you've seen made by some federal officials. Today I met with Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, U.S. Attorney General of Central District of California, Bill Aselli, and ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons. Let me begin by reaffirming a core principle. The LAPD supports and protects the First Amendment right to free speech. In recent days, many protests across the city have been peaceful, and we thank the community for expressing their views and their frustration in a responsible manner. However, when peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action. Our goal is to maintain order without escalating conflict and to protect everybody's right to safety. Recent public statements have misrepresented LAPD's action from an incident the other night. Specifically, there was a claim that LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for assistance by more than 2 hours. When we heard that, I think anybody who's a police officer couldn't believe it, and certainly anyone with LAPD couldn't imagine how that would happen. Well, it didn't happen, and I just want to go into that just a little bit. LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions. Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration without advance notice, were not equipped with gas masks. But despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement on civil immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety about this issue, that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency, requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify. Yeah, if I don't know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was based on our what I delineated here about the perceived lack of response to a help call by an outside agency, that did not happen. We did respond with mobile field force configuration, and just to explain that, a mobile field force is a configuration of people or officers within the organization that we bring in from around the city. We declare a tactical alert so we can break them away from their primary duties of answering radio calls to be able to come in, form up. They're trained in this tactic into a configuration of 4 squads or a platoon that are led by a mobile field force leader. They then go 4 deep in the car and they drive into the impacted area, and that way they can safely go in a large group of officers and able to handle whatever they come across. If we were to send in a single unit or a couple of units into a riotous scene, certainly they'd be surrounded and the outcome would probably not be good. And so this is a configuration that has worked for us, developed here, worked for us for many years, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. So we have to call in units. We have to meet at a certain location. They get the information they need to operate in the environment, and then they go and they take care of business. And so that takes a little bit of time for us to be able to get in there in about 35 minutes is pretty much textbook. So while we'd love to be able to say we can get there in seconds or minutes, in the reality of a situation of civil unrest, we got to do it right. We got to do it safely for everybody involved.
Hold on. Go one at a time, please, and let's identify name and outlet.
Victor with Division Chief, we have seen 2 kinds of groups. It's Friday, Saturday, the community that is enraged and then they're not happy with the actions of ICE, and then the community that loots and attacks and destroys our city. What would be your direct message to both groups?
Yeah, to the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does. I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. I ask people in the community to trust the LAPD, that we're not there for that purpose, and that if they have something they need us to be able to address, we're there for them. As far as the big picture of what can I recommend they do or not do, that's something it's a federal issue, and the federal authorities have the right to be able to do what they're doing. As far as people worried about the violence that we're seeing, this violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people. We've seen people with hammers, and you've broadcasted, breaking the bollards behind the federal building and taking the rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete, and throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers. And again, as I mentioned in my statement, I can't thank our folks enough and our partner agency police officials for going out there and taking care of the community and trying to be able to put themselves between the threat and the overall community. And they do this night in and night out. And in these past couple of nights, we've seen it at a level that I think disgusts every good person. Thank you, sir.
You just described some pretty violent and chaotic situations. What is your position on the National Guard being deployed? Do we need them here?
Well, you know, it's an interesting question, because I would have said that we could handle this. I believe that we would have gone through a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio.
It's getting crazy. They push everyone that way. So again, let me just say this real quick. You're watching this courtesy of AXN News, who I talked to him today, and I'm paying for the stream. But I want to shout out AXN News. He does really good live coverage on the ground, if you like that kind of thing. So I put a link to his channel itself. It's called AXN News on YouTube. I think they might be on other platforms too.
Tonight,
I just know them from YouTube.
this thing has gotten out of control.
But anyways, if you want to check them out, AXN News,
what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here.
It's a lot going on.
Say that we would go to that right away.
Absolute lot going
we
on.
wouldn't have been there yet. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment. I'd say very little, other than we had a conference call this afternoon. There aren't a whole lot of soldiers in place at this time. They're still incoming. But the people who are here, they're tremendous Americans here trying to do, they provide their service, doing the task that they're charged with. Our relationship has been tremendous overall with the National Guard. We worked right alongside them for 5 months during the Palisades fire. They were there every day in the beginning in large numbers, and then that narrowed down before they demobilized. But the relationship is overall tremendous. We're very, very good partners with them, and I hope they feel the same about us.
Do you feel any sense of kinship with them, or about this situation? Do you see that there is need for more immigration?
I think, the federal agents are enforcing federal immigration law, which is their right, and anybody can have their personal opinion on to what level that should be, who should they focus on, and those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are to what level that should be, who should they focus on, and those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on, they've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time, get away with whatever they can, go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Let's go next to
Okay.
Do you think that the presence of National Guard increased the level to this kind of situation? I mean, you said that it's disgusting. You think that if you control it with them, without them, it could be different?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern. But certainly, I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well. I talked to the DA just a couple of minutes ago, and the DA will file felony charges on individuals where it's appropriate, but won't be shy about doing that where it is appropriate. And also the potential for federal charges, given the type of environment we're in. And, the federal authorities don't play. And so as we move forward, I think people will be surprised in some cases for what happens to their future.
Let's take some more questions. Anybody that hasn't asked already, go ahead. Thank you. Given the amount of officers that are here in downtown LA, how does that affect response times and public participation and safety of people that are not down?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. A great question. It was, how does the deployment of so many officers downtown or in any one part of the city affect our ability to provide police services citywide? It greatly impacts our ability because it pulls officers who would normally deployed in communities around the city of Los Angeles into one area in order to be able to address the threat that we're facing. And so other areas, when we go on tactical alert, that means we only handle radio calls of significant importance, meaning a violent crime in progress, calls that have to be answered right away. So the other calls get put on a queue and may not get handled for some time to come. And they're important to everyone who is a victim of any kind of a crime. And so when we go to tactical alert, we don't do it lightly. But in this case, we did it very quickly because we needed additional resources right away to be able to help quell the violence. And that situation, as you can see tonight, has only gotten worse.
Chief, given what you said about not being informed with the pre-stage for the start of this thing, and you said, I believe that you spoke to us as well as our city today. Is there any effort being made for us to share information about what the next week?
Yeah, that's something that we did talk about, and there's no resolution to that. And the problem is that we are guided and bound by the California Values Act, which means that we can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement. So the federal partners have been reticent to provide information to us before something happens because of that reason. Part of that is they want to be respectful of the rules that we have to live by, but it also, on a normal situation, not that big a deal, but in a situation like we saw here in the past couple of days, it turns out to be a very big deal. So we're going to continue to work with the partners that I mentioned and many others as we go forward to try and be able to make things as safe for everybody as we can.
All right, Spectrum.
Chief, how many arrests so far?
Yeah,
Yes, Captain Royal Javel, Operations Central Bureau, Incident Commander. At least, and this is very fluid and preliminary, at least 10 people arrested so far. There's arrests being made as we speak. About 3 officers injured. Fortunately, very fortunate, on very minor injuries, or I wouldn't say not minor, but they're not significant enough to be transported to a local hospital. They were treated at the scene. But we're making more arrests as we speak, and we're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack. If you can see when the chief was talking about, we're trying to, first of all, ensure that our officers are safe and the public is safe. And then we'll move into, if we can arrest, we'll arrest, and then obviously protect the property and our vehicles and other things like that. But as of now, 10 arrests.
If I could just jump on, and then 29 last night as well. And so as we move forward, we will step up our arrest posture in order to hold people accountable and do what we can to stop this violence.
We're going to go 2 more questions.
Really quick, yeah, she asked a question there. How long does the expect from this situation?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How long do you think this situation is going to be?
Yeah, for me, again, that would be speculative to say how long that the members of ICE will be in town doing the enforcement actions they're doing. But by calling out the National Guard, oftentimes their deployment periods are in 30-day periods. And so to me, it's going to be an extended period of time. I don't know how long that'll be. We're gearing up for that to be able to participate in a meaningful way as we move forward without exhausting our people beyond what they already are. We're a department that went through 5 months plus of the fires and dealing with the fallout from the fires. And as you can imagine, with a very limited sized department to begin with, that's a big stress on our deployment, but more so on our people and their families. So as we move forward, we'll do everything we can to focus on employee wellness and to be able to offer whatever services we can to address the needs of our folks.
We'll go one more back there because he hasn't asked yet. So I'm looking at more questions. One, is there a chance for you into maybe going back and relooking at any of these incidents that maybe there wasn't an opportunity to make an arrest at the time, but going back and trying to investigate who's responsible and potentially arresting after that?
No, thank you for the question. I spoke with the sheriff today, and we discussed the possibility video accounts of what happened everywhere on social media, on individuals' cameras, iPhones. Go after all of those video, analyze that video, and hold whoever we can accountable for the variety of different types of crimes that have been committed. And that's something we'll do with a number of different partners with levels of expertise that may be beyond what we have. Thank you for that. The specifics.
So yesterday, the 29 folks were failing to disperse. They were all arrested today. So today, so far, this is very preliminary because there's so much stuff going on. The stuff that we know is one person was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an officer, a significant incident, and then another individual for ramming a motorcycle into one of our line where the officers were and injured one of the officers. Everything else is still very fluid, and I have that for a while.
With several other superiors from LAPD telling us they've made.
So CHP has made at least 17 arrests that I'm aware of in the freeway.
All right, thank you, everyone. Commander Hurtado will stick around to do comments in Spanish for anybody who's interested. Sure, everybody can come up.
Captain Raul Jovel, RAUL JOVEL. Thank you. You need anybody else? Okay. Have fun.
You good? Okay. Thank you all. Be safe out there, please, all of you too. You're in an environment that is as well just as dangerous, and we appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Amid the protests in Los Angeles, let's take you out to this here and hear from the president here.
Los Angeles Police providing an update.
Price of one. Yeah. We have Marco. And I said, come on, let's go see the fake news and enjoy ourselves. Get a couple of nice questions. How are you? Who would like to ask a question?
President, on California, are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
Do you think if Democrats continue to side with illegal aliens over law enforcement, that they'll ever be able to win a national election again?
I love this guy. I think that is a great. Who are you with? Breitbart News. It's a great group. Breitbart. Great group. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
CNN's Dana Bash suggesting that this wasn't a real riot in Los Angeles.
Is that what she said? Oh, I think it was a riot. I think it was very bad. It was covered really as a riot by almost everybody.
What is the purpose of your meetings and campaigns over the next 24 hours?
Going up to Camp David, we have meetings with various people about very major subjects. So we thought we'd do it at Camp David. There's probably better security there than any place. We'll be meeting with a lot of people, including generals, as you know, and admirals. No. So we'll be meeting with military people and others.
Any foreign visitors at Camp David?
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
What is the bar for sending Marines to the
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
So now it's Biden's fault.
We're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago, New York, for example, in the next few days?
Yes, we're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do is a common thing. They get up to them this far away and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
What are the rules of engagement for federal troops?
We'll see what happens. If we think there's a serious insurrection or less than that,
Y'all
we're
funny.
gonna have law and order. Very important.
What's going on now was going on when he was in office his first go around. So y'all stop playing with yourself.
Los Angeles, we watch it very
He didn't do nothing when he was in office before. Let's keep it real. Stop lying to yourself.
Take a look at the train.
Stop lying to yourself. He didn't do this when he was in office before. Why?
I did call him.
Why?
I said, look,
No, this is his fault.
Otherwise, I'm sending in.
Stop that.
That's what we did. Thank you very much. You have a question for Marco? Question for Marco?
California officials could face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation. Something that Holden may have suggested.
Officials stand in the way of law and order. Yeah, they will face charges. Thank you very much.
But the people who ransacked the Capitol, he pardoned them.
Out of Morristown, New Jersey, just away from his Bedminster Trump resort there. Of course, he was taunting and asking about those National Guard troops that were deployed to Southern California amid the anti-ICE protests. You can see there President Trump boarding Air Force One here on Live Now from Fox on this Sunday. And we'll get the other side of it as well. At Camp David, we'll see any remarks. You can see Secretary of State Marco Rubio also on hand for this. Plenty of questions about what we saw in Los Angeles overnight and over the weekend. He was asked.
Well, we're not talking about that. We're talking about what he just said. He said that they. No. What did he just say? Oh, no, we're not talking about what Biden did for his son. We're talking about what he just said about what is going on right now. So, yeah, you're making excuses. You're not keeping it real. You're not on. You have integrity issues. What's your name? What's your name? Charles Colston. You have integrity issues. He said that they will have to stand account for what they did. We're talking about riots on the U.S.
You know what they throw at him, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say,
Okay, because he got how many counts? He's a convicted felon, so we're not going to do that. Mr. Colson, Olson. We're not going to do that. We're talking about what he said about what's going on right now. You're moving the goalposts. Don't move the goalposts.
How would you define an insurrection? You really just have to look at the site. You have to see what's happening. Last night in Los Angeles, we watched it very closely. There was a lot of violence there. There was a lot of violence, and it could have gotten much worse.
I'm talking about what happened at the Capitol.
The train stations that he's building. Like 20 times over.
Was an insurrection.
So I did call him the other night. I said, look, you got to take care of this, otherwise I'm sending in the troops. That's what we did. Thank you very much. You have a question for Marco? Question for Marco?
California officials could face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation. Something that Roland may have suggested.
What about when he was in office before?
Thank you very much.
Y'all like passing the blame on other people. It's funny.
He boards Air Force One out of Morristown, New Jersey, just away from his Bedminster Trump resort there. Of course, he was taunting and asking about those National Guard troops that were deployed to Southern California amid the anti-ICE protests. You can see there President Trump boarding Air Force One here on Live Now from Fox on this Sunday. And we'll get the other side of it as well. At Camp David, we'll see any remarks. You can see Secretary of State Marco Rubio also on hand for this. Plenty of questions about what we saw in Los Angeles overnight and over the weekend. He was asked point blank about will he institute the Insurrection Act. Of course, he says depends. And we also see this right now, as you can see, the
company and just round people up without giving them an opportunity to prove that they have citizenship or they have documentation that allows them to stay there. She was in total disbelief that it could be that all those people, dozens of people, fell into that category of the original sentiment that came out of the Trump administration, which was we are going to find violent criminals and keep them out of the country.
Those are very emotional and sad accusations that are made, but none of them have been proven. You got a report by a state senator in Pasadena today that the ICE who were staying in a hotel as guests rounded up employees and asked them for their ID.
She didn't
now,
suggest rounded up. She did not suggest
that.
rounded up. No, she didn't say that.
That state senator reported that based on secondhand information, and then your reporter repeated it asked another person what their opinion was of it. And she never once went into the hotel and said, hey, did any of your employees get stopped by the ICE agents who were against you? She could have done that, and I'll bet you the answer is no.
Well, she's not here to defend herself. We don't know for sure what Gina Silva, who is an excellent journalist,
I know Gina Silva. She is an excellent.
I'm curious if that's LAPD. Yeah, it looks like it could be LAPD. Let's bring in National Security Analyst and host of the Strap podcast, Hal Kemper, who's joining me. Hal, as always, it's good to have you on. We appreciate you coming on for this developing story. This is something that we've been watching now for 3 days. I was on the air for 6 hours straight yesterday, watching similar scenes unfold. Now we sit here for day 3 of these anti-ICE protests that have been flooding LA streets.
Live Cosmetics Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara.
And law enforcement, this is actually the LA County Sheriff's Department here. We're seeing someone try to get into this barricade right now. You can see him being met with sheriff's deputies. He's trying to explain I'm trying to go this way, but right now they're not letting anyone through here. Looks like he's getting hit with maybe some pepper pellets as he's turning around and walking away. If you want to pan down the street, they've actually pushed, there were probably a couple hundred protesters here just a little while ago. They pushed them beyond City Hall. Something is on fire in the middle of the roadway, and the protesters kind of got pushed that direction just a little while ago. We saw that police firing those non-lethals, and protesters just retreating that way within the last 20 minutes or so. Elliot, I don't know if we can try to set the scene here, but we believe that it's possible these protesters were trying to take over this part right outside of City Hall. They even have some words up on top of City Hall that they're throwing up there right now. But pan this direction, you can see they were trying to make their own barricade with these benches in the middle of the street, blocking from coming in to where City Hall is. City Hall, and then sounds like we're hearing these non-lethals. This is what was happening. So this is kind of what they were firing. Law enforcement was firing at those protesters to get them out of here. You can see what these non-lethals look like. We've seen some people take some hits while we were over on the freeway over that direction. And right now it looks like there's something. You can see the fire. Let's see if we can zoom in and see what we're looking at here. Yeah, you can see lots of protesters in the street, and it looks like they're
And Matthew,
scooters, and you can see the fire.
Matthew, farther down that street, there seems to be a greater collection of people. So past the fire, there seems to be a greater collection of people. And, I'm just wondering if they are just hanging around, if they're waiting for police to approach them, or if they're just standing by.
Yeah, we believe that is the group that was outside of City Hall. So they've been pushed now about, 2 or 3 blocks from where we are. They actually had several cars, it looks like their own personal vehicles, kind of where that fire was, and some barricade fencing that was there. And then they've retreated now a couple blocks further into the city. There's separate groups right now kind of protesting that we're seeing. There's that one group by the freeway. There's this other one that's kind of going right through downtown, moving from City Hall.
And Matthew, we should point out that you are standing behind a number of sheriff's deputies. So the LASD has come in now into the city of Los Angeles to help with the policing with LAPD. They also, I believe, brought those or did the wire barricades there, that at least the beginnings of it, although right now there's only one. Perhaps the protesters have moved them. At one point, while Chief McDonald was talking in his news conference, we saw a number of the protesters setting up those, A-frame traffic barricades and other things that almost look like a page out of what we were seeing with the anti-Hamas or the pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian protests at the campuses. But then that's all been torn away now. It's gone now, and I don't really know what their point was. Do you have any sense for that, Matthew? I mean, they were going to create this barricade, and then what? They were going to be trapped inside their own barricade?
We're not on
It's really hard to speculate. I mean, this is right outside of. It seems like they were trying to barricade themselves right here on the street, right at City Hall. For what reason, we aren't exactly sure. Maybe at least try to slow down law enforcement from getting to where they were.
Okay, I need for y'all to hit the like button if y'all want me to continue to play this. Hi.
Looks like those protesters have since pushed back at least a few blocks, but left some fire behind on their way out.
So Matthew, as we are watching this scene here, we are noticing all the cars, the public that is driving by this scene. Reminder of the chaos still happening right now in downtown Los Angeles. It is a Sunday night coming up on 9 o'clock, so perhaps many people are home for the night, not necessarily going out, say as it would be on a Saturday night, but still an area perhaps to avoid. Obviously, downtown is a changed picture from decades ago. Many more people live downtown. It is a place that has quite built up with high rises and restaurants and
yeah, there's actual nightlife in downtown
exactly,
now.
Exactly. So many more people downtown who just live there. And so, Matthew, I don't know if you can gauge a feel for, is it people who seem to just be kind of lingering around, people who live in the area, or actual protesters against the ICE raids?
Yeah, hard to speculate. I'd say it's a pretty large assortment of crowd, right? So you have people that were here to protest today, and then there's some noticeable agitators. I mean, especially when we were standing over the freeway, you saw people taking hammers, trying to get rocks to throw down on top of the CHP vehicles. We saw electric scooters being thrown. We saw a cone with some sort of fuel being thrown into the CHP vehicle that momentarily set it on fire. And right now, it looks like, I mean, you can see there's hundreds of protesters where you're looking at right now beyond First Street. And it seems like the sheriff's department here is just trying to hold the line at City Hall. And it's hard to know what's on the other end of the protesters, if there's more law enforcement or if it's just a long, if it goes for a few more blocks.
And we don't tend to think of downtown LA as being a territory patrolled by the Sheriff's Department. That is LAPD territory. So I'm guessing the Sheriff's Department is there in support of LAPD.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, they're definitely here to support. You can see LAPD driving by right now, responding to something else, and you can see the protesters giving them a bad time as they're driving by with that fire there as well.
And we heard from Chief Jim McDonald, who just had a news conference talking about how they deploy, that they were not aware that the federal government was going to be doing ICE raids in Southern California on Friday. And so that caught them off guard. He talked about how it takes them some time to deploy when you have a crowd scene like this, like we saw Friday, like we saw Saturday. And what they do, he said, is they roll 4 people deep in a police car. That is A, for their own protection, B, to get more people quickly into an area. Normally we see 2 people per car, but in a situation like this, they staff it with 4 per car. It takes time to mobilize and get in place, as it probably did, Matthew, for the Sheriff's Department to get there to downtown LA and mobilize with the skirmish line.
And I should point out that the police chief did want to dispel a rumor or some kind of narrative that is out in social media that it took LAPD more than 2 hours to respond to the call for help by federal agents in that federal building. And Chief McDonald said, no, that's not true. 38 minutes. It would have been faster if not for the fact that the officers knew that they were going to have to go in with gas masks. They couldn't just respond. They would have to be prepared for whatever they were going to face. Now, we have Skyfox in the left corner of your TV screen. We don't know what attracted the pilot there to hone in on that, but we've got Matthew Seedorf on the ground looking towards First Street, and it looks like there are quite a few people and lots of vehicles that are passing through that intersection, and you're nearby City Hall, so there is an attempt, of course, to keep people away from that general vicinity. But what's going on from Skyfox, it's harder to tell. But it certainly suggests that there are a lot of people spread out throughout the downtown Los Angeles area.
And you can see from this aerial shot here, quite an LAPD presence there. Last night, Susan, you were on the air to what, midnight, 12:30?
About midnight.
About midnight last night. So obviously, the police department has a track record from last night as to what we saw in the downtown area. Remember,
Ending the
tomorrow's
poll,
Monday, we saw the freeway shut down.
56% of the people said it's the administration's fault.
People are going to work.
I said no, it's
Actually,
not.
in her news conference earlier today, she pointed out that perhaps it was advisable if you're able to work from home to avoid the downtown Los Angeles area.
976 people voted.
Into the morning hours, but clearly there's a lot of ways in which the city needs
So
to sort of refresh
it's
or
Big
clean
Pressure
up
would
or
say
what
that's
have you. I do
50-50.
also want to point out that last night the temperature, the view was nothing like this. We would see things sort of ebb and flow, but it was never quite this this number of people, this number of protesters or bad actors, whatever you want to call them. We did not see, we saw federal agents lob flashbangs and tear canisters, but other than a couple people that perhaps were lobbing a lot of verbal threats or verbal comments, we didn't see very much. There were reports that some of the protesters were indeed throwing rocks. I do want to point out, and Matthew, I don't know if you witnessed any of this, but today LAPD arrested at least 10 people. They say it's a dynamic situation, and clearly the number of people arrested is going to go up. And CHP, because you were right there, right near the 101 freeway when it was overtaken by protesters, they say at least 29 people were arrested. That's what CHP did. And pointing out that while last night, most of the arrests were failure to disperse, so that's a low-level offense, correct? But today, this is what speaks to how things have ramped up and how the temperature has gone way up. Now the offenses are getting to be much more serious, including injuring an officer, including ramming a motorcycle into a skirmish line. So you were there yesterday in Paramount, Matthew. Compare and contrast what you witnessed in Paramount versus what you're witnessing now.
Yeah, it's really hard to compare. This one, it seems like it's scattered out over several locations. You've had members of law enforcement that were forced to abandon their vehicles on the freeway. We got a firework that just was launched right there. Yesterday, it was Border Patrol right across the street from that Home Depot for reportedly a staging ground. It was mostly Border Patrol at that main scene in Paramount. There was no LASD there or local police department helping them.
Well, why he didn't do it when he was in office before?
Honestly, and then LASD helped with
Why didn't he do it before?
in the area, preventing more people from getting in. But it was
That's my thing. Why he wait? Why didn't he do it before?
It like it's scattered
Pressure.
over several blocks of downtown.
Yeah, it seems more widespread. Skybox now over a gas station in the downtown area. Again, sometimes we're not 100% sure why the pilot, whomever is handling the camera inside a Skybox,
Hi, Robin.
focus in on a certain area.
Thank you.
There, but it does speak to how much traffic, which for a Sunday night at almost 9 o'clock, it's sort of unusual to have that kind of traffic downtown. It's stuck in traffic. It looks like there's a little bit of a traffic jam. Now, the other thing, Matthew, I'm wondering, since you were in Paramount, that community, by the way, is heavily Latino. A lot of people there are concerned about family members, and that is what brought them out. That's what, stoked perhaps their passion against federal agents and Border Patrol, what they were doing in that staging before they went out to do the actual raid. Flags seem to be a part of the protests these days. And I've noticed that there are so many more flags in downtown LA, different kinds, than what we saw in Paramount yesterday. Am I wrong? Was it mostly Mexican flags yesterday that you saw, Matthew?
Yeah, it was Mexican flags. And, you know, honestly, I think today was a little more planned out. I know this morning I was seeing flyers about protests in downtown LA starting this afternoon. And I think yesterday in Paramount just kind of happened. I think someone saw what was happening with Border Patrol vehicles and, you know, posted something on social media and got people to come out to that location way less planned. And then beyond that, it spread. People started hearing about it and more people kept on showing up, especially agitators as it got later. Today feels like this was more of a plan. People had planned to come out here and protest what they've seen the last few days. With that, some agitators came out here as well.
Yeah, indeed. The chief of police, LAPD's Jim McDonald pointed out that people would come with their backpacks, and inside
He
the
got a
backpack
vendetta
would be
now.
cinder blocks,
Okay,
and then they
okay.
would take a
Well, at
hammer
least you
and
being
break
honest.
the
He has a
cinder blocks
vendetta now.
apart. And that is
Biden
why there
just
was
let
just
anybody, okay, but he has a
easy
vendetta, so
supply
that's why I'm
to
asking. Why didn't he do what he said he was going to do the first time? Why is he waiting now just to then blame Biden?
That area over the freeway.
Yeah, because it's like, why he didn't do it before?
Pieces of concrete over.
But you said it because he has a vendetta now. I get that.
You know,
So he being
he
spiteful.
also pointed something else out, which is very disturbing, that his police officers are getting hit by some kind of liquid, and he's not sure what that is. His officers are going to be worried about what is it that I got sprayed with. And
This
so
was a
he
part of the
pointed out
plan
that
if he had,
that
well,
was no
yeah.
good.
That's
And
why I'm
he
saying, because
said,
he's talking
well, a
about
lot of
these
people
people
have
going
said
to
it,
be
including
punished.
Bill DeSalle,
What
the
about the
U.S.
people
attorney.
that rioted
Thanks to
the
fact that
Capitol?
everybody has
But they was
phone
doing
in
it for
their hand.
him.
There's a lot of photo and
Exactly.
video documentation, and
They
the
was doing it
people
for him.
will
So that's
be
why he pardoned
prosecuted. They will
them.
be,
So it's
they will
always about
find
his
them and they will
agenda.
prosecute them. But yeah, part of what is happening now, or a lot of these agitators are doing things that are just beyond. This is not a sign of protest when you're spraying police officers, when you're breaking up cinder blocks, etc.
That's my opinion, VD.
To be so destructive.
That's
And
my
Matthew,
opinion.
you and I have been
Because he
downtown
didn't do
many,
this
many
before.
times.
And the
It is
people who
remarkable which
rioted the
the difference
Capitol,
between
he got them
yesterday
off.
to, well,
But these
Friday
people
to today
who are
is
rioting,
really
oh, they're
remarkable.
gonna be
Every wall that can
punished
be
to the fullest
marked
end
up
of the
is
law.
marked up.
No pardon for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of graffiti, a lot of vandalism. I heard you talking about the cinder blocks. We saw people taking hammers and breaking
That was
pieces
planned
of,
by Trump.
concrete or pieces of the sidewalk, and that was what they were using to throw onto the freeway on top of those CHP vehicles. And just looking around right now, you can see benches that have been thrown everywhere. You've got the graffiti, and then not to mention, you know, we've been talking about those rocks that were being thrown at members of law enforcement today. It's definitely a very intense
Yes, that's all I'm saying, Robin. That is all I'm saying.
now beyond City Hall from where we are right now.
Well, it looks like those sheriff's deputies, they do have the riot shields with them, but clearly they are in a relaxed position. They don't feel the need to use those riot shields. But again, if you're just joining us now, we have LASD deputies on site in downtown LA in the
That wall was his cookie. He had 4 years to build that wall, Smitty. Come on now. Come on.
You back now, Matthew Cedar High.
You know, he was on the golf course. I mean, it was.
Looks like some kind of medical
Come on now.
coming through the streets on the top of our screen. Not sure where that's headed or if it's tied at all to these protests here. Some kind of ambulance, it looks like, hoping everybody is okay. Also looking at
The Capitol was violent. What are you talking about? The Capitol was violent.
California pastime to have bike clubs.
Are you kidding? The Capitol was violent.
Planning anything, you know, that is other than just enjoying a ride on a Sunday night here. Obviously, we know a lot's going on downtown, a lot's happening, a lot of unrest, a lot of people that are looking loose, and others doing things like this, setting something on fire there. So it is a night of
Okay, y'all coming up with excuses. Y'all coming up with excuses.
from another part of the country.
Y'all coming
or
up with
the world.
excuses.
This right now tonight is limited to the downtown
Y'all coming up with
area.
excuses.
I know I had somebody call me from out of state asking if I'm okay. People texted me, am I okay? Right now, the only unrest we're seeing has been in the downtown area on this Sunday night.
We want to show
Come
you
on
some
now.
video from earlier today. We've talked a lot about the fact
He
that
is
the
a
101
convicted
freeway was
felon. We
shut
don't want to
down,
talk about being
and the
found
fact
not
that Jim
guilty.
McDonald pointed out people were coming
There is
to
no
the downtown
convicted
LA area
felon
with
that can
cinder
go
blocks in their
and
backpacks,
become a
but breaking
president. So
them
we're
up,
not going to
and
talk about that.
is in part what allowed for these bad actors, the agitators, to throw them over that overhang.
I'm just saying this is crazy. Our country don't need this. And we just don't need
Getting
this.
this information into our newsroom now that
That's
Fox
just
11
my
is hearing
opinion.
from officers who are processing arrestees that a staffer with Lucia Aguilar Cole, City Council District 14, was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. Now that could be that she lobbed a rock over onto the 101 freeway. Could be almost anything. We don't know specifically what caused her to have that kind of reason for arrest, assault with a deadly weapon, but a very serious accusation indeed.
We are getting this information also. The Little Tokyo Arts District station is closed tonight, according to Metro. Trains are bypassing that station in both directions. The A line is not running between 7th and Metro and
I agree, EMS. It is awful. And everyone needs to stay safe.
everybody rides the bus or the Metro in that area, but if you know anybody
If
who
they were
does,
in Texas, Martha said it would be different. You ain't never told a story.
on a Sunday night, that area
It
is
would be
closed
totally different.
due to these
We know it's double
And I almost
standards
changed the word from protesters to demonstrators
when
to
you're
even
in power. You
agitators
right.
at some
I don't
point,
expect
as
nothing
with some
else
people
from
as we
politicians.
look on tonight.
I get
But
that.
it's enough disruption to not only have closed the freeway today, but now Metro and the bus lines, or the bus shuttles, will replace the trains in that area. Again, it's a Sunday night.
Who said it was
Tomorrow's a whole
worse,
different story. It being a
Amelia?
workday here
He
in
said
Southern
there was no
California.
violence.
I'm
I
sure
said
law
it
enforcement wants
was.
to get everything
Who said it
under
was
control
worse?
tonight.
Listen with your good ear. You're not listening with your good ear. No one said it was
Suggesting that
worse.
Lucia Aguilar Cole is with the council
You
district
moving the
14
goalposts.
as a city council.
I didn't say that.
City council person, but that is not the case. Council District 14, of course, is Isabel Herrada.
Oh, okay. I thought you was responding to me. I'm sorry.
So we're trying to figure out
Veronica
who
Henry,
exactly
she's
is
talking to you.
Lucia
I'm sorry,
Aguilar Cole,
Amelia.
but, some very serious charges against her. Arrested
Let
apparently
me go back
for
to being
assault
quiet.
with a deadly weapon.
They talked about the arrest yesterday. If you're wondering, is there any kind of follow-up by LAPD, by the city attorney, the district attorney? Yesterday, LAPD said 29 people were arrested for failure to disperse, one for throwing a Molotov cocktail at police.
Oh, there go another cocktail.
And they also said that they are, with cameras being everywhere, if you are a true agitator and you think you're getting away with
He
this,
must be a
they're saying
Diddy
that there are cameras,
supporter. He
and then
throwing
they will
cocktails.
prosecute, and they will take people into account and hold them accountable for their actions.
A Molotov cocktail.
Presence by LAPD. This is again in the downtown area. You can see a lot of graffiti with words that we prefer not to show on TV, but unfortunately, this is live breaking news, and you can see the
3 LAP officers injured, at least 10 people arrested. Oh, wow.
and see the statements that have been made on somebody's corporate building there, somebody's business there.
Yeah, in the past, I know that the woman who runs the Italian American Museum of Los Angeles, she was quite saddened, and I hope her building is okay. She's in the basically
Baby all cocktails. BD.
and she was quite saddened that
You have to throw a little humor in there, right, BD?
it's an older material, so very difficult to clean.
Baby all cocktails.
Like some of the federal buildings,
Woo-wee.
and how easier it will be to remove the
They
graffiti.
say it's
Okay,
sticky.
another spot fire there in the street. I believe this is this the turnout that is close to Alvera Street?
Oh, I needed that humor.
Northern end or still close to the MDC?
Oh my goodness.
Detention center. Not quite sure on that one, but it is in the greater downtown area. You can see with that heavy police presence there, and then somebody setting that looked like a big trash bin, trash dumpster set on fire as motorists are driving by. Just that reminder to stay out of the
Can I get at
LA
least
area
10
and as
people to
these
hit the like button?
happening in Southern
Please.
California,
I would greatly
and the
appreciate it.
protesters respond. Keep an eye out and ear out for areas
Ooh, what
perhaps
you
just
saying,
completely
Smitty?
avoid not to get caught up in the traffic or the demonstrations. Right there, a live picture of City Hall as the nation is watching what's happening here in Southern California. Some
It never rains in Southern
pure shock and awe as they see
California.
our city burning right there
That's
with
what
a
they
spot
tell
fire there in the
me.
middle of the street as people are driving by. Is that somebody?
What are you looking at?
I wasn't quite sure what somebody, if they were pushing a cart or a stroller or what. But anyway, you have that street right there in the middle of downtown LA. Obviously, motorists are not able to get through that area. And I'm wondering too, Susan, as we talk about people using their cell phones, how much people are getting a thrill out of posting on their social media, getting that photo for their Instagram or their moment of fame, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good question, but that does make it easier for either the FBI and Police Chief
Find
McDonald,
you.
by the way,
You
pointed
never.
out that they've got teams that know how to scrape the internet and figure out who you are
Google.
based upon the social media posts or the video that gets put out there. We just noticed that somebody brought over, we don't know what it was, apparently it is flammable, and put it on that spot fire there, something that was carried over, and it took a couple people to do it because there was some heft to it. And you see, now we see other people that have decided to find things that perhaps are flammable. Let's add it to this fire. And you have to wonder, at this point, it's a focus for whomever these people are. I just hesitate to call them protesters, because how does this protest the raids by ICE agents? How long were LAPD, law enforcement, allow this to go on, allow this to affect traffic, allow this to become sort of a drawing, a focus for some people that want to hang out in downtown Los Angeles and cause chaos?
Well, what happens is they move from block to block to block to block. In case you're just joining us, this is Fox 11 News. We are on early. Normally we are on at 10 o'clock with Susan Hirasuna. I'm Christine Devine, joining in for this live coverage on day 3 of protests here in the greater Los Angeles area here. And this is a scene at night. You have this Sunday night scene here in downtown LA. Not a lot of people holding, you know, anti-ICE signs in this crowd. So you have to wonder, look at somebody there has a tripod set up in the middle of the road with a camera as they're documenting this scene. And you can see just steps away from our beautiful City Hall building that is all lit up right there. As we pan across here and look at Southern California, again, reminder that the 101 freeway had been shut down today by the demonstrators, by the demonstrations, by law enforcement, and that, I'm guessing, Susan, we haven't checked back on the 101 to see if it's been reopened, but
They have
here
face
you have another crowd
recognition.
gathered here at this Alameda point.
It's after
All
9 o'clock,
over.
and you see there some kind of dumpster, some kind of container that they were successful in being able to set ablaze. We should also point out that we watched as 5 Waymo
Not too
cars.
strong, period.
Okay, so now we're doing
We got to
donut
get rid
reverse
of the
in the
big
intersection.
Reverse, and someone throwing rocks. Okay, what's going on there? That
Boule,
looks very strange.
buck
Somebody,
dancing, sorority house.
I
Now I agree with that.
this seems so
It's
very
time to
dangerous.
stop the
Obviously,
butt.
these
Okay,
people throwing the rocks are
Yeah,
not
it's
happy with that
time to
person
stop
there.
that.
I don't know if they felt this person was endangering
It's
them.
murder. Oh,
This is a very
Veronica Henry. Yes, I do. That's what whoever said it wasn't violent. Yes, it was violent. What is he doing? Oh my!
He seems to be having trouble
What is
controlling
this?
that car, or he's driving erratically on purpose. I think that whomever threw rocks or whatever it was, yeah, he's having trouble controlling that car. Oh, or has decided to go past the those barricades there. This is basically the Alvera Street area, the plaza.
I'm just wondering,
not where traffic typically would go.
Susan, was this person trying to hurt or endanger those that were in the streets there.
I feel like the
Well, that was
people
what
in
there
that
a couple
intersection or
years
near that
ago.
intersection felt as if, yeah,
Really
that this was
enjoyed
somebody
myself
that
in
was
Pasadena. Went there,
no.
ate
Look how this
downtown.
person's driving on the sidewalk. Oh my gosh.
Oh, he out on the
This is very
sidewalk.
scary
Oh
here.
Lord.
LAPD, FYI, something's going on here with this driver who is that a sidewalk he's driving on?
Well, that's a part of that plaza area of Alvera Street,
right.
not far from the Chinese Museum, and it's clearly not set up for traffic. It was at one point, but now you have all of those balustrades or whatever they're called, the barriers that keep you from driving exactly where he's driving now. And if you've ever been there in an afternoon, oftentimes there will be people that are playing music and dancing. He's going at a pretty high rate of speed.
That is way too fast.
Yeah, I
on a
don't.
city street where there are people and bicycles of all sorts, whether you're with these demonstrations or not. It makes me wonder who this person is and what statement they're trying to make. Are they trying to agitate the people that are out there on the streets at this hour? Look at the way that driver is driving.
Yeah, he
Is this
trying
somebody
to.
on
He trying.
drugs?
Look at him now, going backwards.
Who does that? Who
Oh
drives in reverse
wow.
like that in the middle of other traffic, endangering innocent people? That's a scary situation in its own right.
Oh, he's out of the car now. He's decided to abandon that vehicle. And what? He's got a hold of a dumpster trying to move it, but unsuccessful. So now he's going to get back in the car. And by the way, I think I saw some shattered glass. I think that the agitators were able to throw a piece of concrete or what have you at him. And he was able, broke through the window because then he was throwing things back out again.
Look at the way that driver is driving. That is a very scary scene. It's almost like this person is a rogue person who is out of his mind. And look at the crowd.
Everybody's coming towards him because he's stuck. He's stuck there. Now he's going to do things quite illegally to get out of the way. But it's clear that he was trying to go after the agitators or whomever is left over in the downtown area. And look at that. People are throwing things at him. So apparently the sentiment was, okay, you're not with us. Therefore, you're against us.
Well, look, I mean, the guy was doing donuts in reverse. You could kill anybody like that. He's been driving, it seems to be, very erratically. It makes you wonder what the mindset is of this person. Is it someone who just lost their mind? They just don't care who they hurt. They're trying to make a statement or what? But this is something that I'm surprised that we don't have a police chopper over this one, as in a pursuit of some sort, because this behavior was very, very erratic.
Erratic. He was able to outrun, or thanks to the fact that he's in a vehicle and the other people are on foot. He had to get out of that traffic, so he's decided to back up. And let's see what he's going to do now. Now we're basically, I believe, in the Union stationary, going through Union Station, going through intersections or stop signs.
Going through a stop sign. So sideswiped a bicyclist. We're talking to our booth right now. So he sideswiped a bicyclist. That's why the crowd got agitated. But his behavior then, I would say, it wasn't necessarily
Is he lost?
response because he continues to drive.
And he's scared? Is this a panic move?
Not sure the mindset of this person here, but if they were an innocent person just trying to get out of the way, they're not leaving and getting out of the way in a normal fashion.
No, not at all. When he left that intersection,
is his GPS not working? It's giving him
disabled, but no, that was
what?
his way of being somewhat threatening. But he sideswiped a bicyclist. That's what got the rest of the crowd, those that were on foot outside of the vehicle, against him. Now we're in that place where Skyfox is overhead, but you got that high rise there, so it's going to be difficult to see the vehicle. I wonder if he had any idea that he was being tracked by a news helicopter.
Again, who knows what went down, how that happened, where a bicyclist was sideswiped? Was it intentional? Did someone get in the way? And then there was a panic scene, but it was very, very bizarre behavior as that person continued to drive around the downtown LA area.
All right, we may have lost that vehicle. Thanks to that big tall building there, but
well, let us hope this driver either calmed down, got out of the area, and just was not intentionally trying to hurt anybody. That is a very scary scenario in itself.
Let me just ask the people in the booth now, did he sideswipe that bicyclist in that intersection where he was doing the backwards donuts? Was that where it happened? Because it was... So he...
Hi, Jim.
Okay, so it was after that, after he left the intersection where he was doing the donuts, and then he actually went through Olvera Street, or the Plaza, rather. Is that him there? That could be him. That is him. Okay, so we're back overhead.
Did we just have law enforcement right there? Did he drive right past law enforcement? We can tell that's him because there's damage to the vehicle.
The damage to the vehicle, and I believe the windows too were shattered when people started throwing rocks. But my point is the bicyclist got hit after he left that intersection. And how would those people know that, once you get into Chinatown and adjacent to Union Station, how would you know that this vehicle was involved in, the donut situation? But then I guess as soon as he hit that bicyclist, that was enough for pedestrians or those in the area to realize, oh, you need to be stopped.
Is that a drone? I'm sorry, I see this white light and I'm trying to figure out what that is. It's
Could be a drone these
him?
days.
I mean, is that a drone that's kind of keeping an eye on him? I've never seen that before. So anyway, we have this person still driving erratically here, and that is still very concerning. As we see this person, I'm guessing still in the greater downtown LA area, which makes me wonder about his mindset. Remember, he got out of the vehicle, did not seem to have a shirt on, if I have that correctly, and he was banging on that trash dumpster that people had put out into the middle of the street.
Oh, they put that out there.
I think he was trying to move it. Like, I don't know if he thought it could be sort of a barrier or something to affect traffic or affect people. But yeah, we're watching that vehicle. I can't tell if it's a crossover or a van or whatever. He has been affected by some traffic now and again, and then he would just back up and turn around and like break a lot of traffic laws. But this is unusual because usually we're used to the fact that there would be a police helicopter overhead, and we talk a lot about, like, what's the want? Why are they tracking him? Why are they over him? And this is a situation where Skyfox is over this vehicle. We witness some of the erratic behavior and erratic driving, but we don't know if law enforcement is involved at all.
And again, I'm watching that white light. I have no idea what it is. It continues to be following this vehicle. It continues to be in our shot.
Yeah, it's so funny, Christine, because you see it on that monitor. I don't see it on this monitor. So it could just be the monitor.
Okay, all right. Yeah, perhaps you're right. My bad on that. Okay.
But it is unusual.
It is a distracting monitor I'm looking at here, so forgive me if anybody else is seeing this on their monitor. It's a very strange thing. Okay, so let me avert my eyes to another monitor where we see no light here. Okay, so again, what is the mindset of this person, and is this a rogue lone person who's taking matters into their own hands to try to make a statement against those who are still out on the streets?
Exactly. That is the question, and there are definitely people that thought that he's not with them. He's not
Did
with
they
the
let him out?
agitators, that he was trying to do something to distract
Hi,
or
Shirley.
disrupt what they were doing. At least that's what it appeared to be. He's driving at a high rate of speed, considering he's on a surface street and made that turn to the left awful quickly. I'm missing the smart navigation so we could tell precisely where he is in the LA area. But he's going at a pretty good clip. No one's near him. Whoa, that was a little too close.
Yeah, something is not right with this driver. The behavior is way too erratic to be normal. Not sure the area that this driver is in now, but obviously we've pulled away a little bit from the downtown area specifically itself. Looks a little bit more residential here, and not sure where this driver is now headed, but we've seen some very strange behavior. And when we queue up that tape at some point in time, you'll see exactly what we're talking about doing. We've seen a lot of car scenes where they do donuts in the middle of the street, but in reverse.
Right.
That was crazy. With people around?
Like, it wouldn't have surprised me if there were people that got involved and wanted to do a street takeover, but to do it in reverse, and then clearly to not be as a part of the demonstration that's going on right now. It seemed pretty obvious that he wasn't really a part of what is going on.
They were quite upset.
He wanted to object. or, you know, I don't think that necessarily means he's with the police chief and the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, but regardless, don't know his state of mind. It didn't seem as if he's like, I'm with you guys, because instead, protesters started to throw rocks and concrete at him. And I believe it broke the window, because then he started lobbing things back out of the car.
Is this the vehicle stopped? Like
Stopped?
He drove home? And it's, you know, I don't know if this person got caught up. There he is right there, shirt off. Oh, please don't get back in the car.
Yeah, that's the guy that we watched try to move a dumpster unsuccessfully.
I mean, he's got a sense that there's this helicopter overhead. It's you know, it's not overly warm out tonight to be without a shirt on in LA. It does cool down at night, so that is bizarre in itself. But obviously the guy pulled over, parked the vehicle in a normal fashion, and perhaps he is out of the vehicle and he's done driving. Let that be. This is very bizarre.
It's very bizarre indeed. So now he's gone into the back. What is he doing? He's pulling out, oh, I just need to shake this shirt or jacket or something, because now I'm going to put on my jacket. Meantime, he left the driver's side door open. Oh, so
Dottie, welcome, watching from Alberta, Canada.
Is because I'm pretty sure the window on the driver's side was broken.
Left the door open. Oh no, getting into another vehicle.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So
Hey, Kane Life.
No, they're just opening car doors. Is this their vehicle?
So he was shaking out that jacket, I believe, because it was full of shattered glass from the window. But what is that? So that car is on, and he decided to open the door and throw that jacket in. Meantime, he did leave the door open on the driver's side.
He's talking.
Approaching somebody.
Oh, police.
Oh, okay, police are involved. They are indeed aware and involved.
Well, this is a good thing. If they were watching our coverage here on Fox 11, we had it all. So police have stopped this guy from getting behind the wheel of that second vehicle or back behind his own vehicle. Now they can question him to say, who are you and what the heck were you doing?
What were you doing? And now we have an idea of specifically where he is. Vanna Street.
JD from New York.
East 1st Street. So just outside the downtown Los Angeles area. It's odd. He was not very, he didn't resist arrest. He didn't seem all that surprised either. The police suddenly came upon him. Meantime, the woman that he was talking to, police are saying, no, you need to back up. You need to back up. And she looks like she's objecting to all of this.
I'm not sure. Is she? No, she seems to be talking with that officer. Okay, they're back.
In the meantime, he's like, everybody's got to back up. Everybody's got to back up.
Yeah. Well,
he looks like he's a sheriff's deputy, not LAPD.
Again, it's
I'm
not
sorry.
a really warm night to be on the streets like that in shorts with no shirt, and that behavior, you have to wonder about that behavior.
Well, at least they got him off the streets.
Talking with people on our team who actually have a better viewpoint of this, he definitely did hit a bicyclist or sideswipe a bicyclist in some fashion, hoping that person is okay. That was after that bizarre behavior of doing those donuts in reverse in the middle of an intersection there.
All right, should we go back to...
Oh, you think he got rid of drugs? They think he...
Is near City
I mean...
Hall. You see a lot more sheriff's deputies in that skirmish.
They thought it was the glass.
And we have been watching as more LASD deputies have arrived on scene. That's in part to relieve the LAPD. Some of their officers, I'm sure, have been working long hours. So it was time to bring in some extra resources and personnel power. Still seeing fireworks go off as well. So clearly the people that are just past City Hall, and we noticed that
they finna get them off the streets tonight.
Sort of a bonfire in the middle of the street.
You're welcome, K-Pad.
Sheriff's deputies have now come in right there in downtown Los Angeles.
It is a Sunday night, and perhaps they're trying to regain control of the downtown area as we head into a new work week. It's going to be an unpredictable work week. We don't know about the National Guard called up.
Are they going through that car?
President Trump. We are back now on the scene of that driver. Look at the damage there of the car who was driving so erratically in the midst of people who are out there on the street at this late night hour. The demonstrators, as we're calling them, don't know this guy's motive. Obviously, this could have ended very badly as the people were throwing rocks at this vehicle as he was driving so dangerously amidst people there.
Quite a few patrol cars have now arrived at the scene, and we were watching a deputy as he goes into the vehicle searching for what
They won't keep him. That's why they
whatever,
turn things up.
the case against
They
that
know
driver.
they won't
Frankly, probably the best
get in
evidence will
trouble.
be the Skyfox video,
Oh, wow.
where you could see all of his moves, all of his reckless maneuvers outside of downtown LA, towards Chinatown, towards Olvera Street, into that plaza area where cars are not supposed to drive. And then he winds up here at this location near East First Street and Vanna. And that other vehicle that was involved, I don't know if law enforcement would know that he actually threw something into another another truck rather. Okay, Matthew Seedorf, he's back with us now. Matthew, you've decided to add your mask. Is that because there's a lot of smoke and tear gas being thrown about?
Yeah, we're right in front of City Hall still. The protesters kind of push back towards City Hall. So there's this skirmish line with LASD here trying to hold them where they're at on First Street. We're trying to stay out of their way here. And they are, you can see the fire at the end of the street right now. Those flashbangs, and they warned us that there will be gas, as there's one right now. So there's going to be some tear gas here momentarily that they are firing across the street. Yeah, you can just see all the protesters over there, and on the other line of this law enforcement, and just flames, and it's pretty chaotic right now. They're trying to put an end to this right now.
Yeah, they've got that bonfire going there, Matthew, and they've successfully lit for a while. But those flashbangs, that is no joke. And the flashbangs and the smoke can be quite helpful in trying to disperse a crowd.
Yeah, those flashbangs are really loud. The smoke is very successful, and we did see an alert from LAPD that essentially all the agitators at this point have split off into separate groups around downtown LA. It was warning people in the area to be careful of those agitators and possibly causing damage in the area. The Sheriff's Department was called in here to assist with the LAPD outside of City Hall.
Thank you, Nakia.
Trying to barricade themselves on this
Micah.
City Hall. Right now we're following the skirmish line. They're trying to push the protesters further back. You can see the fire is still going on as well.
Matthew, as we watch there, that skirmish line able to make some progress and move forward.
Oh, wow.
Take a picture where City Hall is. Is it behind you, in front of you? Where is City Hall in relation to this?
Yeah, so City Hall is right here. So we are right next to City Hall where this is happening. And then that's First Street where all this is taking place.
That's First 48, not First 48 of Eddie Murphy. 48. Is it, what was it called? 48?
Firing those non-lethals. Look at this. I mean, I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, we can hear it. Well, it makes sense.
Flash.
They would want to keep the crowd away from City Hall.
Oh, wow.
And push them back, and hopefully people will disperse as the night goes on and they get tired and they, call it a day kind of thing. But it's quite a scene, so we can just listen in for a minute here as you show us the scene.
Wow. And by the way, flashbangs, they do have a tail, and you can see them fly through the air, but they don't explode into fireworks like what we just saw. It was almost as if an agitator had decided, I'm going to answer your flashbang.
Beverly Hills Cops, yes. Thank you.
We just had a flashbang go off very close to us. My left ear is...
Beverly Hills Cops, yep.
They're making us push back a little little bit. Right now, it's hard to distinguish what is fireworks and flashbangs because we're seeing a little bit of mixture of both. Very close to LAPD headquarters, though, just for reference, here outside of City Hall, where this is taking place. And just, I mean, there's also just an immense amount of traffic. I mean, people, you think about what time it is, 9:30 on a Sunday night, all the cars in the area, just... There's a massive scene taking place.
You know,
not normal at all.
I think there's a big looky-loo factor, and people want to get their Instagram video or their shot or to witness things and live it through things that are happening, experiencing things. But really, if you don't need to be in downtown LA, it's an area to avoid because these crowds can be on the move. Police can be on the move. But right now, it looks like this line, Matthew, is designed to hold the line crowds away from City Hall, and when you pan back to see City Hall right behind you there, it is quite a statement, quite a shot. And if I'm watching from another part of the country, whether I've been to Los Angeles or not, whether I know LA well or not, it is quite a visual to be watching this on TV.
Yeah, it feels like the whole world or the whole city is on fire when in fact it's just this, you know, a few blocks really when you're talking about where these agitators are. They're not even anywhere close to LA Live or SoFi State, I'm sorry, Crypto.com Stadium. They're farther north, away from that area.
Yeah, just I was thinking back because just a few hours ago we were inside City Hall. We had a press conference with LA Mayor Karen Bass, and while we were inside the press conference, you could hear those flashbangs going off while we're interviewing the mayor about the protest taking place outside. Pretty eerie feeling with that, and now just standing out here in front of City Hall and seeing what's taking place, it's pretty unbelievable.
Can you show us again the pan shot or have your cameraman turn back to show us really how close you are to City Hall? If you can reflect back on the words of the mayor and how she described what she was seeing with the protesters and saying that there is no place for violence or unrest. Talk about that as we look at our beautiful building all lit up in colors. And then we have this contrast with the colors of a scene of chaos downtown.
Yeah, the mayor was saying that there's no place for violence. She was condemning the violence and says that it needs to stop. She was also blaming the
I had to
for what was taking place after they called in the National Guard. But yeah, just looking at what we see right now, again, the flames, you can see flags, as well as traffic, and it looks like there's a pretty significant crowd on the other side of the street there. And at this point, I mean, I don't know if you want to call this a standoff, but police or sheriff's department's here staring and looking at the protesters on the other
I
side.
can't just show it because
the reason why City Hall is all lit in different colors, I believe it's because of Pride
I
Month,
got to
because
switch
Pride
it
Month
up
is June, and
somewhat.
typically over the course of the year, the city will change the lighting for the beautiful City Hall. And so right now I think it's multicolored for Pride Month.
Well, and it was LA Pride this weekend.
Exactly.
So it was a weekend of celebration in the gay community with LA Pride happening with the parade and the concerts, and then you have this going on, and as well as BET Experience at all, also this weekend downtown.
Right. Exactly. So always a lot of things going on downtown. What is not expected is to have this kind of activity from agitators. Notice we're not calling them protesters. Yes, there were a lot of people that wanted to protest the ICE raids that started in Paramount, and then we had all kinds of
What do you mean? How does it work?
And then eventually into the downtown area. They're not that far away from the focus building that the building that we were focused on a lot last night, which was the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center, also known as a...
Yeah, because see, I don't get paid for this because it's showing high res. Yeah.
Saley was saying that the reason why they started lobbying
because it's a riot
from the gates of the NDC was because that the agents felt threatened by the protesters that were outside of right next to on Alameda.
Matthew, as we see that white smoke, those are the canisters of what that is trying to push.
But if you would like to support the platform, you can send a Cash App. You can Send a super chat, super sticker, or the gift box at the bottom by the dollar sign.
Agitators firing back with those fireworks. It looks like they were possibly were trying to have some sort of takeover on the street there.
You're welcome.
But it looks like the deputies kept firing those little pepper pellets.
See, by now you would have received a whole bunch of commercials. That's how you know I'm not getting paid for this.
That was the accusation lobbed at the federal agents, the ICE agents in Paramount.
Bang, bang, boogie. Hi, bang,
at least
bang,
the
boogie.
demonstrators felt it was necessary. They were starting to shoot pepper balls. So that was the Border Patrol agents to the demonstrators in Paramount yesterday. So now it's LASD using those pepper balls. Can you smell it, Matthew? I know you had an incident too close to tear gas. Are you affected at all by the pepper balls?
No, where we are, we must be down or upwind because we're not getting impacted here. They did warn us that was about to happen. They told us to put on those masks, but I've taken mine off at this point because we're all right where we are right now.
Okay, good. That's good.
So as we see this picture here, it looks like the crowd has been pushed back. Is that what the visual is for you as well?
Yeah, looking here, we'll zoom in. Looks like you can see the crowd walking the other direction.
Oh, sure.
There's still something on fire. Something's on fire in the middle of the street there. You can see some people on bikes and lots of cars going by. But it looks like the main crowd, dozens of people, maybe more than 100 going the opposite direction now with the Sheriff's Department here holding the line outside of City Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. But that fire continues to burn. So they were successful in getting something flammable on that, what would you call that, a bonfire or what have you. All right, now we're looking from Skyfox. I'm not 100% sure where Skyfox is now. There's a wider picture. Is that the area near Beaudry, near the LA School Bureau, School District headquarters? Not quite sure, but you see, now this does look like a few protesters that are holding signs up to law enforcement, and there's quite a few police officers.
Oh no, this is live.
And now they're creating a stronger, what I would consider when I say stronger, what I mean is more officers in that skirmish line. And that's unusual. I see a guy there with a backpack, and I'm wondering whether or not that backpack has some kind of substance that allows for him, instead of shooting tear gas, perhaps he can just spray somebody with some kind of chemical or like a tear gas kind of situation. Do we know where this is? Can we get some direction on what intersection this is? Is that the same overpass where we had focused a lot of our attention earlier today when the 101 freeway was blocked? Because I saw a little peek of what looked like the 101 freeway.
I'm not quite sure where it is, but obviously police are wanting to make some kind of stand there for some reason. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's the freeway right there.
No pressure. It's not good.
And it's still stopped down. There's no traffic going through there. And this was an area that they were concerned about, at least earlier, because that is where a lot of people had stood on that overpass and alongside the 101 freeway, and they were lobbing pieces of concrete or cinder block over the side. Those were the bad actors. Those were the agitators. Now there seems to be a smaller group of people that are holding signs which suggest that they are true protesters.
For some reason, you have police there, Susan, in two positions there, trying to make a true stand at that location. And who knows if they had some kind of intel or if the crowd was marching that direction, making their way
They
there.
are definitely outnumbered and outgunned, baby.
People going up that street or down that side street. So perhaps protesters, demonstrators were on the move in a certain direction, or they were going back, like you said, to that freeway area and they wanted to make sure that there was no more disruption of the freeway.
Now, there's no reason for them to be lobbing things down below the 101 freeway unless they want to hit passenger cars, because the vehicles are all gone now. The CHP was able to get their vehicles out. So this is the part that it would be great if we had a police strategist who could explain to us, okay, so you're blocking the way to the Hall of Justice, basically. The next street over, I believe, is the Hall of Justice. You're blocking the way to go back up to or south, but meantime, it doesn't appear to be blocked to the area which is the overview, the overpass over the 101 freeway.
Oh, what's that? Oh, wow.
Oh, that is always something that people have to be wary of, because that means that there was a shooter, right? A sharpshooter that had the light poised on that guy.
Oh,
That's
wow.
Interesting. Not sure what we just witnessed there. Okay, again, we are watching this intersection for a reason. And
Did they have the beamer on him?
not sure why they're not just turning around and going. They're clearly
Did
outnumbered
they
there
just
by
have
law
the beamer
enforcement.
on him?
Of what is going on.
They were quite upset.
He wanted to object.
Out away from City Hall and hold that line and push them back, and hopefully people will disperse as
Thing flammable on that, what would you call that, a bonfire or what have you. All right, now we're looking from Skyfox. I'm not 100% sure where Skyfox is now. There's a wider picture. Is that the area near Beaudry, near the LA School Bureau, School District headquarters? Not quite sure, but you see, now this does look like a few protesters that are holding signs up to law enforcement, and there's quite a few police officers, and now they're creating a stronger, what I would consider when I say stronger, what I mean is more officers in that skirmish line. And that's unusual. I see a guy there with a backpack, and I'm wondering whether or not that backpack has some kind of substance.
They better not put their hoodie on. They better make wise choices.
He can just spray somebody with some kind of chemical or like a tear gas kind of situation. Do we know where this is? Can we get some direction on what intersection this is? Is that the same overpass where we had focused a lot of our attention earlier today when the 101 freeway was blocked? Because I saw a little peek of what looked like the 101 freeway.
I'm not quite sure where it is, but obviously
In on the 101 when those vehicles, well, first when the protesters were there, and then when the vehicles were there. So they too were in a different kind of uniform that I didn't expect. Yeah, like a dark black,
like an LAPD.
Navy blue. People were confusing them with LAPD. Regardless, let's just call them law enforcement. The point is they are there to keep the peace, and right now, sadly, this is not peace.
So we are back right outside of Los Angeles City Hall, where you have the LA County Sheriff's Department with that line there. And you can see the remnants of the crowd that was there earlier with that fire still burning in the middle of the street. It appears they're just letting that fire burn itself out. The larger crowd has been dispersed. Although it looks like some are coming back to that fire pocket there. And there you go. They're going to fire some more non-lethal weapons to disperse those who are turning. Again, you have vehicles there, the public driving through.
The public or other people that want to be in the general vicinity, that they perhaps are wanting to check out what's going on in downtown LA. They could even be amongst those that perhaps have some ideas of what they will do in order to join in the anarchy.
Well, too, you can try to block off streets, but what happens is these groups continue to move. Right here, they're not getting any access to City Hall. That's what's happening right here.
Maybe they got some intel that suggested that was the goal. The goal was to make entry hall.
Or to tag it, cause damage of some sort.
Somebody was able to put some kind of like light projection onto the wall. So the good news is not turn that off.
Yeah,
it's not permanent, but it was also an obscene message. I should point that out. Okay, Skyfox, taking a look around. So those auto dealers, if I'm not mistaken, are
Patriot Hall there, I believe.
yeah. So south of the 10 freeway. Is that what we're looking at?
It's in that greater area of the downtown LA area where you have those dealerships, and you're right. Our chopper there is kind of just scouting around, looking around right now as to what's happening. And we talked about Matthew Studer saying different groups were on the move in different areas. This is a pretty big pocket of people here. We haven't seen a larger group like this in a minute here. So obviously you have people who made their way to connect with one another as they march down the street, with motorists either trying to get through or be part of it. Oh wow.
Dear.
Oh, okay. This is not good. So here you have a violent fight breaking out.
They fighting, y'all.
This will end quickly. That they will break up these people. Okay, and there you go. That's what happened. Okay.
Clearly, we don't know what happened there, but and the fight continues. But meantime, lots of other people are trying to stop the person. But he's
Colors.
He keeps
Colors.
going. But there are people trying to keep him back.
Which goes to tell you that there are some people there that are trying to protest on message.
Here they come, y'all.
Wow. Okay, and then there are others who are.
Y'all know if y'all got some tickets, y'all better get up out of there.
Through, and then there were words exchanged.
Then you have a car, they're caught in the middle of the traffic there, and let us hope that everybody is safe. And again, it looks like they are part of what's going on there.
They got the hazard lights on, so they're stopped.
And so the SUV, there are people hanging out of the SUV there. It looks like some
This
people
is
want
not
to be
good.
part of this movement down the street here. Others, I'm sure, are looky-loos here. But it is Sunday night. It's coming up on 10 o'clock at night, which really could be very late tonight in some cities, but not necessarily in LA. We can be late.
Okay, y'all, I'm finna call it a night.
Who don't work the next day, or
I'm trying to hang in there.
That works different hours and different shifts.
Or they're passionate about the cause, no matter how misguided.
Or passionate about the cause.
Period. Yes, 100%. I didn't mean to suggest everybody was misguided, but if you're destroying property and you're hurting officers, that is not acceptable. And both the governor, Bill Asaley, the mayor, they've all said the same thing. Nathan Hochman, the DA, the police chief, they've all said the same thing, that if you are going after officers, destroying property, damaging buildings, etc., those are all prosecutable crimes. And there will be a great effort to track all of those agitators down and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, including, apparently the DA says he will consider filing felony charges, and of course you could find yourself up against federal charges as well, or in exchange for the local charges.
So again, we have our Skyfox right now over downtown LA, where we have been witnessing pockets of demonstrators, people still taking to the streets after 3 days of protests against Homeland Security and the ICE raids here in Southern California. This is, again, Sunday night here in Southern California. And as people are watching, as we know they do because we get responses on our Facebook page, etc., they watch from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. We are streaming
LA
live
will
on
never
Fox
be the
Local app.
same.
It's another place to always find us and our
Right.
coverage. So we are trying to bring people information that is relevant to them.
You are so right, Kane Line.
If you have no perspective as to where this is.
Once that's happened, yes, that's true. I mean, we're not trying to make arrests. Believe me, the officers would rather be doing the reading, having their Starbucks somewhere. But when we come together, we'd rather have people leave and go go away. But they don't. And so you have to make the choice of either we disappear and destroy the city and destroy property and people get injured who are unaware of something going on the street and drive in the middle of it.
You are right.
Where were the police? Where was the
6 months in 2025 has been now that's true. We've seen a lot in 2025, and it's just the first part of June.
The police officer is not there to try to create a confrontation. People want it, but they will always, in my experience,
North Broadway and Temple.
Not wanting a provocation. You'll notice that you tend to have a lot more cars going to areas where the protests are happening because they want to get involved. They want to see it. They want to get a little clip on their smartphone to put it on Instagram or something. And they create a problem also by showing up in an area that's clearly got some police activity going on.
And it's such a gang.
You end up putting up with a lot of abuse from verbal.
Oh man,
from different directions. I do know that some different tactics different agencies use. Some officers, their protocols will stand there in a skirmish line and allow the mob of people to get really, really close to them. And that's very volatile. And a few protests deep in the mob of protesters will throw something over the top, and it may injure significantly the officers. And as we saw, particularly when SRT rolled out to the Fairfax district in May 30th of 2020, they were not peaceful. They were throwing chunks of concrete, and as you guys have reported on the news, a lot of fireworks. Those things will fly faster and farther than a lot of our less lethal projectiles, and they are explosive devices.
Yeah.
12th and Figueroa.
We've had years where people had hearing issues afterwards, had to get medical treatment for it. So,
okay, y'all, it's almost midnight. I gotta go to sleep. I gotta get up in the morning.
Facilitate First Amendment peaceful protests.
Y'all have a peaceful night.
Creating havoc or destroying things and being violent, they are no longer peaceful. They have removed themselves from
Oh wow, they're no longer peaceful.
Imminent. They can declare an lawful assembly, and if they fail, they'll be arrested for that. And if they're wearing a mask, the rest of them are also wearing a mask.
Right. Okay.
You're welcome, Terrell.
Retired sheriff's deputy, we thank you for your insight. What we're looking at here is right near crypto.com arena. And we got word that a crowd was gathering there. We don't know if these are people who are being peaceful or if they're just watching and seeing what's going on and they're just wandering around in the streets, or if there is something else to this. We're not seeing any sort of violent activity going on right now. You see people walking with flags. You see people walking down the street. I did see one thing being thrown, but it didn't appear to be targeting anybody. And so we're going to keep an eye on this situation. We began our as we look at this. So we began our 8 o'clock hour.
You're welcome.
With the news conference by the chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, Jim McDonald. Here's a recap of
You
what
said that kid they
LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions. Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration, without advance notice, we're not equipped with gas masks, but despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement on civil immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety about this issue, that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency, requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and